DM Swartz, good morning.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members.
Morning, Mama. Trying to check out the members. I do not see.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Mama. Unjani?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you?
I'm fine, Mama. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Honorable Peters, and a good morning to everyone.
Yes. Good morning, Honorable Peters. How are you?
Well, thank
Are
you
you good?
yourself, Chair.
Thank you, Mama. I'm fine.
Good morning, Chair. Mokoena.
Morning, Honorable Mokwena. I have been calling your name. Good morning. How are you? Okay. Who else
How
did
is
I
you,
leave?
Chair?
I'm fine, Mama. You just need to fix your gadget because I think you might have a problem with connectivity. Just fix your position. I'm trying to see other members. I don't see MKP.
The other members have not joined yet, Chair.
Yeah, I can. I see. I do not see DM Singh. I do not see. Yeah, the minister. I only see DM Swartz. Let's just give them. We're left with 2 minutes to start our meeting. Just. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Chairperson. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. I'm trying to check at the member. Honorable De Block, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chairperson. Uyabona namhlanje eGoli. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Ngiyabanda nalapha eKapa namhlanje. Yeah. Okay. Key. But I think we do meet the
Yes, Chair.
we do meet the quorum, no?
Yes, we do, Chair.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, honorable members, I think we need to start with our meeting. I'm going to switch off my video. I wanted you to see that I am not a robot, but for the purposes of connectivity, I'm going to switch my video. Honorable members, I think we need to start with our meeting. The time now is 9:30. Others will join us as we are moving.
Hands of the papers.
Francisco Oberosa, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. We meet today, honorable members and colleagues, to exercise our oversight responsibility over a sector that remains important to rural livelihoods, industrial development, environmental sustainability, climate change, and transformation. As we look back on the 2020-2025 implementation cycle of the Commercial Forestry Sector Master Plan, our primary objective is to evaluate whether this ambitious blueprint has truly rejuvenated South Africa's forestry value chain, or whether structural bottlenecks continue to hold it back. When this master plan was launched, it set definitive, legally and socially binding targets for 2025. It promised to catalyze 25 billion in investment, safeguard and create over 100,000 jobs, and aggressively expand our timber resource base while driving Black economic transformation. The master plan was designed to address structural stagnation in the forestry sector by focusing on 6 key pillars: resource expansion, transformation, processing or value addition, combating illegal timber, research and development, and removing key operational inhibitors. These 6 key pillars of the master plan had 87 targets. A high-level review of the department's presentation shows that after 5 years, the department achieved only 13 of the 87 targets, which is 15%. This level of performance reflects poorly on all involved parties. This outcome is despite the initial environmental and sectoral scans undertaken by the forestry stakeholders, while made it clear that the path to achieving the 87 goals faced severe structural headwinds. The foreseen challenges included aging infrastructure, plantation backlogs, timber theft, invasive alien species, fire and climate-related risks, financing pressures, and governance and capacity challenges in some community-linked operations. Honorable members, regarding the transfer of community shares held by SAFCOL, we note that the process has not been completed since 2024. While the transfer process should be finalized during this parliamentary term, it should not be rushed or undertaken recklessly for the sake of a conclusion. There is a need for balance to ensure business sustainability and continuity while avoiding stagnation or collapse after transfers. With those few words, honorable members, and colleagues, I welcome all of you in this meeting today. Chi, can you then flight our agenda? Thank you. There is our agenda. Can I then check if we have any apologies, Chi?
Morning, Chair, morning, members and colleagues. Yes, Chair, we received 3 apologies. The first apology is from the M. Singh. He's attending a JEF conference overseas. Mr. Paulson is attending another meeting, and the DG is not well. Those are the 3 apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chi. Let me just check. Oh. Can I then get a mover for
Sorry,
the adoption?
Chairperson. My hand is
Yes,
raised.
yes.
I also,
apologies, Minister, I did not see.
no problem, Chair. I also just wanted to make you aware that the Director General is not available today. She's got something that's bothering her, so she's going to the doctor. I will have to leave just after 10 o'clock, if you would excuse me, for prior arrangements that I've got. But I know that Deputy Minister Swartz is here. So thank you. If you can allow me to do that, I'll appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. That is noted, Minister. Thank you. Honorable Diplock, I see your hand is up.
Yes, Chair. Before we adopt the agenda, I would just like to put it that perhaps we should have the mandate and overview presentation before we get into the specifics of the master plan, just to put that to you as an option for the agenda after the introductory remarks from the minister / deputy ministers. If not, I'm happy, but I thought for the sake of our understanding, it might be good to have the context up front and then the details afterwards. But I'll leave it to you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I'm noting that proposal. Okay, but I'll have to hear other members if they are in support of your proposal to move the bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4 to be the second one. Honorable members? Are you in support of for the proposal by Honorable Diplock? Honorable Managa?
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. It won't do any harm to the program. I do support.
Okay, I take that Honorable Beach wanted to support as well. Honorable Beach?
Good morning, Chair. That's correct. I also second the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Beach. I hope that the Forestry SA is ready, because I know that they might have been ready for the time that was allocated for them. But then if they are ready, it will be fine. Then we will, can I then move for the adoption of the agenda, honorable members, as amended? Can I get a mover? Honorable Kumalo?
Chairperson, thank you very much. Greetings to your good self, Chair, the Minister and the Deputy Ministers, honorable members that are on the platform, officials. I want just to move for the adoption of the agenda, Chairperson, with those amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kumalo. Honorable Managa?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I raised my hand to support the mover. To second, yes, the support of the to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Managa. It must be noted that we have moved the briefing by Forestry SA to bullet point 2. I will now give over to, can you just go through the delegation here before I give over to the Minister and the Deputy Minister? Just go through the delegation for today. Thank you.
Chair, today's delegation is led by the Minister, Honorable Okamp, and the Deputy Minister, Benny Swartz. And then the official supporting the ministers, it's Ms. Nodada, the DG for Forestry Management, Mr. Tebuho Matiane, he's the Chief Director for Forestry Management. Miss Liseke is on the list, but I just been notified that she is not in the meeting. Mr. Mbanjwa, he's the Chief Director for Policy Development. Miss Mabena, he's the Director for Forestry Management. So that is a delegation from the department chair. And then from South African Forestry Company Limited, SAFCOL, we have the board chairperson, Prof. Nesamboni. Mr. Lamini, the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Maruma, Acting Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Silwadi, Chief Risk Officer, and Ms. Majatladi. She's the Acting Company Secretary. And then Chair from Forestry South Africa, we've got colleagues. I'll start with the chairperson, Mr. Mason, but I'm not sure, Chair, if all of them are in the meeting. If they are not, they will join later. And then we've got Mr. Michael Peter, who will be leading the presentation. He's the Executive Director. And then we also have Mr. Msweli, he's the Vice Chairperson. Mr. Ruthman, he's the member of the Master Plan EOC and the Vice President of SAPI Forest. So these are not from Forestry SA Chair, but they've been invited to the meeting as well. We also have the CEO of SAPI, Mr. Wild. We have Mr. Villane, he's the member of the Master Plan EOC and the General Manager for Mondi Forest. We have Mr. Lamini, FSA Director, Dr. Health, FSA Director, Miss Jane Moloney. She's from the Paper and Allied Manufacturers Executive Director and EOC member. And Mr. Saudi from the Sawmilling SA, he's the Executive Director. Mr. Bruce Brett from the SA Wood Preserves Association, he's the Executive Director. And then Dr. Levin, he's the Project Manager. And lastly, Miss Mavimbela, she's from the Forest Sector Chamber Council, and she's the Executive Director. That is the delegation chair. Some are in the meeting, some are not. I think they will join us later. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Minister, I am now going to hand over to you to do an overview, remarks, then followed by Deputy Minister Swartz.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Chairperson, just from my side, thank you for everybody that was involved in some way or another over this weekend celebrations in the Kruger National Park. We really appreciate it. Honourable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, members of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable Deputy Minister Swartz, in absentia to the DG today, senior officials of the department and of SAFCOL, and also representatives of Forestry South Africa. Good morning to everybody. It is an honor for me to appear before the Portfolio Committee this morning to present progress on the implementation of the Forestry Sector Master Plan. This has been approved by Cabinet in November 2020 already, and the Master Plan was developed through a collaborative initiative between government, between industry and labour to drive investment, job creation, transformation and competitiveness within the sector. Now, following the conclusion of the 5-year implementation period in March 2026, this briefing provides an opportunity to reflect on progress made, challenges that remain because they are, and the approach on how the second phase of the master plan will now unfold. I am encouraged, and I think we all are encouraged, that the sector has made notable progress, particularly in exceeding the investment target with over 33 billion rands committed, advancing transformation through the transfer of state plantations to communities. We saw a number of months ago when the President and myself were in KwaZulu-Natal, when we handed over some of those land, if I remember correctly, it was 17,000 hectares. And we also remember that that is strengthening skills development, it's strengthening research, and it's sector coordination. At the same time, Chairperson, members, we acknowledge that implementation has been uneven. Several cross-cutting challenges continue to affect the pace of delivery. These include delays in regulatory processes, land claims and constraints related to transports and logistics. Addressing these challenges is critical to unlocking the full potential of the sector. In this regard, stakeholders recently convened a review workshop in March this year, where there was collective agreement that the master plan should continue with a focused effort on finalizing outstanding deliverables and addressing key constraints. The main focus must and will be on job creation and how, as a collective, we can ensure that the sector rises to the challenge. Chairperson, the key lesson from the implementation of the master plan is that strong coordination between government, industry and labour is essential to achieving sustainable outcomes. The progress made to date demonstrates what can be achieved through collaboration and partnerships, not only within the sector, but strengthen collaboration within government so that the support required by DFFE in achieving this master plan is available. Going forward, our focus will be on accelerating implementation, improving coordination across departments, and ensuring that the master plan delivers on its objective of inclusive growth, job creation, and sector competitiveness. Chairperson, it's once again a privilege to address the committee as we consider progress on transferring South Africa Forestry Company Limited or SAFCOL shares to communities in the Siyaqhubeka Forest, Singisi Forest Products, Mountain to Ocean Forestry, and Amathole Forestry. And I hope I remember all of them now. In 2001, the government, through the Department of Public Enterprises, undertook a significant restructuring of state-owned forestry plantations. And that process involved the sale of forestry packages into 4 special purpose vehicles, namely Siyaqhubeka Forest, Singisi Forest Products, Amathole Forest Company or Forestry Company, and MDO. And then the intention was to introduce private sector participation while also ensuring that the management of these plantations remained sustainable. To this end, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment was entrusted with managing these lease agreements. Through this restructuring process, government sold 75% of its shares in SAFCOL via these special purpose vehicles to private investors, while SAFCOL retained a minority stake of approximately 25% across the entities. This structure remained in place until recent policy direction aimed at enhancing community participation and redress. On 28th of May 2024, that's 2 years and a few days ago, the former Minister of Public Enterprises directed SAFCOL to transfer shares to identified community beneficiaries in line with shareholder agreements. This marked a critical step towards broadening ownership and ensuring that communities directly benefit from forestry resources. Honourable Chairperson, honourable members, we look forward to engaging with the committee on receive guidance from you on how we can strengthen the implementation of this forestry sector master plan. Chairperson, I will now hand over, if you allow it, to the department to present the progress on the implementation of the forestry sector master plan, after which SAFCOL will also provide an update on the transfer of shares to communities in the Siyaqhubeka Forest, and Singisi Forest Products, MTO Forestry and Amathole Forestry Company. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chairperson. It's always a privilege to join you in this portfolio committee.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your remarks. Thank you. You have requested to be released at 10. You will be excused. At 10, you can just leave or just write on the chat when you are leaving. Thank you very much for your overview remarks. I am going to hand over to Honorable DM Swartz for her own remarks. Honorable Swartz.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, and Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee and officials. You may proceed, Honorable Chairperson. I'm fine with the remarks the Minister has made. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable DM Swartz. Honorable members, we have amended our agenda. I am now going to give the chairperson of Forestry SA to do remarks before handing over to the executive director for their presentation. Mr. Mason, I hope you are in the meeting and ready. If you are not ready with your remarks, then I will hand over to the executive director, Mr. Michael Peter of Forestry SA.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson. Good morning to the Honourable Minister, the Honourable Deputy Minister, and the Honourable members of the Portfolio Committee. Please allow me to apologise on behalf of our Chairperson. I think with the programme change, a number of our delegation were anticipating only to join later, but I see some of the members have joined, like the CEO of SAPI has just joined the meeting. Thank you very much for the invitation to address this parliamentary committee today, Chairperson. We wrote to the Portfolio Committee in April of last year, actually, to seek such an engagement, because at that time we hadn't yet managed to get a meeting with former Minister Dion George, who had been in office for the better part of a year at that time. We subsequently did manage to engage with Minister George and Deputy Minister Singh in September of last year, and things were starting to pick up nicely. But as you are aware, as a result of the internal machinations in the Democratic Alliance, that saw Minister George depart, and shortly thereafter Minister Ocamp being appointed a minister. Unfortunately, we again have not managed to secure a meeting with Minister Ocamp, but he has indeed replied to our various correspondences with his office since his appointment, and we are very pleased to meet him here today virtually in Parliament for the first time. So greetings, Minister, and thank you for your input. We hope that you'll be able to still meet with us. This is a 75 billion rand a year industry that employs 145,000 people in the most rural parts of the country, as the chairperson pointed out in her opening remarks. So we hope to meet you at some time, Minister, before your term of office ends. We hope that once the committee has heard our presentation today, that you may appreciate the urgency of some political and administrative oversight and intervention for our sector. Chairperson, you touched on some of this in your introduction in terms of the lapses in the master plan, and I think the figure you had was only 13% of the targets having been achieved. Honourable Chairperson, I must warn members that they might find some discrepancy between our assessment of the department's performance of the undertakings in the master plan and that which the Minister and possibly the Deputy Minister might share with the committee. Be that as it may, we would never dream of misleading or telling half-truths or even obfuscating issues in any engagements in this august House. So please forgive us should our inputs come across today as being quite frank, but we should indeed always speak truthfully in this House at all times. Chair, I will provide a brief overview of the sector and on the excellent progress we have actually made with government and organised labour more generally. And then I will ask our subject experts, to whom you've been introduced, Mr. Norman Dlamini, who's our Business Development Director, and Dr. Ronald Heath, who's our Forest Protection Director and Research Director, to provide additional detail on the severe challenges that we continue to experience with the sector master plan. So on that note, Chair, if you'll allow me to share my screen, that should be coming up now. And if the members could confirm that they can see that.
No, it's not up yet.
Not sharing. I wonder why that's not doing that. Share the entire screen. Perhaps now, is that visible?
You can switch off your video as well, Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Chair.
You can switch off your video, so yes.
Is that now visible?
Yes, it is visible now.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, Chairperson, let's just start that slideshow. I wonder why that's not open. Is that visible? I'm sorry, we're going to have to do it in present mode, Chairperson, because I can't get it bigger. I'm hoping the members can read that adequately. But effectively, our sector, Chairperson, as I mentioned, is a large sector. Forestry South Africa, which is our organisation, really represents timber growers. And when we say timber growers, we mean timber growers both large, all the corporate members, some of whom are joining us today. And then we have about 14,000 medium and small-scale timber growers spread throughout the country. The sector supports this processing, pulp mills, board mills, sawmills, mining timber, and so on, and that then supports further downstream beneficiation. In terms of its contribution to the sector, Chairperson, our GDP contribution last year was 74.5 billion rand. 15 billion of that only was in timber sales, so that's the primary side of the business. And you can see the massive multiplier effect of 59 billion rand in pulp, paper, sawn lumber, particle board, poles, and other products. In terms of employment, we employ 145,000 people. And once again, you can see the vast majority of that employment is in the primary business of growing and harvesting and transporting timber to processing plants. From a transformation perspective, we have consistently maintained level 3. And I'm very pleased to tell you, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn and that Ms. Mavimbela won't be angry with me, but the Forest Sector Charter Council that met last year indicated that we may have just achieved level 2 as a sector in 2025. So the Minister spoke about that, and we are genuinely very proud of that contribution. Chair, I won't go over the purpose of the master plan. I think the Minister has covered this very well, except to say that this was supposed to have been a partnership between the states, between business and between organised labour to increase investment, which, as the Minister's pointed out, it has done, but also importantly to increase jobs and competitiveness, underpinned by greater inclusivity of transformation in the sector. In terms of our undertakings, as you pointed out, Chair, in your opening, the commitment was to invest just under 25 billion rand over 5 years, and you can see where those investments are supposed to be: pulp and paper, sawmilling. I'd like to draw the members' attention to that third bullet there, Chair. Only 1.5 billion rand was needed for new afforestation, primarily in the Eastern Cape and KZN, and for recapitalization of the degraded departmental plantations. And I'm focusing on that very small investment relative to the other, Chair, for a very specific reason. And that is because you can see below that most of those jobs, 104,000 jobs that we had hoped to create over the last 5 years, are again principally in new afforestation and recapitalization of the degraded state plantations. And as I said, Chair, we are very pleased to say that we are likely to achieve a level 2 triple BEE rating for the industry from level 4 5 years ago. We estimated there's about 17 billion rands worth of equity, our industry, in the hands of black participants in the sector. Chair, in terms of the outcomes from industry's perspective, we are very proud to say that the figure has gone up even more since when the minister, on what the minister had reported, which is that we have invested 38.5 billion rand in processing, and that's 54% more than our original commitment. Unfortunately, Chair, none of that has been in new afforestation, nor in the recapitalization of the degraded DFFE plantations. That was that 1.5 billion to which I referred just now, and Mr. Dlamini will explain why that outcome hasn't been achieved. Similarly, on the jobs front, we've created a paltry 460 jobs, primarily in processing, against our planned intention of creating 104,000 jobs. And once again, that's because none of those jobs have been created in new afforestation, nor in the recapitalization of the degraded DFFE plantations. And again, I've dealt with this point, Chair, just to make this note that the world is in turmoil and has been for some time. Aside from the madness of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, we had COVID-19 5 years ago or 6 years ago, the actions of Russia that have created a very difficult global trading environment, and yet our sector remains committed to our transformational objectives. Chair, continuing with positive outcomes, we think we have enjoyed our greatest collaboration between industry, government and organised labour in the last 30 years. We have received over 70 million rand from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation for forestry research under their Sector Innovation Fund initiative. The Department of Water and Sanitation resolved a 10-year deadlock on water use licensing conditions for our sector. The Departments of Minerals and Energy have facilitated multi-billion rand investments by the forestry industry into renewable energy projects through the reforms that they have introduced. Transnet Freight Rail, long considered the Achilles heel of the South economy, has issued a blocked exemption which has granted Forestry South Africa and TFR and our members an opportunity to collaborate to try and get more timber off-road and back onto rail. They have spent and will continue to spend literally tens, if not hundreds of millions in recapitalizing forestry rolling stock on rail and port infrastructure. We have seen the first ever private sector participation in rail that Minister Creasy announced recently in over 100 years. And then the Department of Home Affairs assisted with the visa reforms, which enabled our sector to access the international skills needed for these massive investments that the industry has made and for the maintenance thereof. The good news continues, Chairperson. SANRAL have given undertakings to take over more provincial roads, which service the forestry industry. We've also had just this morning news about Langeni Pass now receiving attention. It serves 2 massive members in the Eastern Cape. The Department of Agriculture, the IDC, KZN Growth Coalition, and the National Skills Fund have provided close to R1 billion in support for black participants in the forestry industry. The SAPS and the SANDF have been providing rapid response in combating illegal mining, violence and intimidation in the forestry industry. And then at the presidency level, we've enjoyed tremendous support from the National Logistics Crisis Committee, which FSA helped to bring into existence and which we continue to fund, the National Planning Commission, the Human Resources Development Council, on which we're serving a second term under Deputy President Paul Mashatile, Operation Vulindlela in the presidency that has driven a lot of the structural and administrative reforms in the country, and the National Priority Committee on Violence and Extortion at Commercial Sites. So we really believe we have enjoyed the best partnership with government over the last 6 years. In terms of what the DFFE key undertakings were, and Chairperson, you spoke about, I think it was 86 undertakings or outcomes in the master plan, but the 4 that were critical to underpin growth, transformation and employment in our sector was getting new afforestation right, getting the fibre to support the 38 billion rand in new investments that our sector has made. The DFFE in year 1 were to conclude EIAs for 44,000 hectares in the Eastern Cape and KZN, and this will have facilitated the private sector investment as well as community empower with tech transfer and the jobs that we discussed earlier. The second undertaking for the DFFE was to transfer these category B and C plantations into partnerships between the private sector, communities, land claimants, using public-private partnerships or leases. And again, this would facilitate private sector investments that the fiscus didn't have to fund this. It would facilitate community empowerment, employment, to provide a guaranteed market for that timber. The third element was that the DFFE was supposed to provide post-settlement support, both to successful land claimants and to other people in community forestry initiatives. And we're pleased that the Minister made reference to the President's handover of the title deeds at St. Paul in March, because the President himself, as Deputy Minister Singh has done previously, has remarked about where is the post-settlement support to help people make a go of it in plantations, to support their livelihoods and to support the availability of fiber for the country. Then on pests and diseases, the DFFE were to advance the partnership between the DFFE industry and our state universities for the protection of timber plantations against pests and diseases. This would contribute to supporting new investments by the private sector and protecting our existing forestry jobs. And finally, the DFFE on fire protection were to provide appropriate funding and support to fire protection associations which serve our forestry areas. So, Chairperson, on that note, please allow me to hand over to Mr. Dlamini, who will give you some more indication on how that has gone on those portfolios. Norman, over to you with the Chair's permission.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Over to you, Mr. Dlamini.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to you and to the entire committee. Thanks, Mike. Chair, if I may start, I'm generally a very positive person, but most of the tiny good news have already been spoken by Mike, and I now have a responsibility to mention some of the not so good news. Just for starters, in forestry, for one to create jobs, there has to be new fiber. That's the first thing. Or secondly, there has to be an innovative use of the fiber that was traditionally considered waste. So those are the two things that are important. So if you look at the undertakings that Mike has just mentioned, the first one was new afforestation. We have a potential in South Africa of 151,000 hectares. 100,000 being in the Eastern Cape, 39,000 in KwaZulu-Natal, 6,000 in Limpopo, and another 6,000 in Mpumalanga. With the target of just the Eastern Cape only and KwaZulu-Natal, 44,500 hectares that was in the master plan. We have not afforested not even 10% of that area, which means there has been any new fiber since the start of the master plan. Reasons are given and reasons are many, but what is key, Chair, is that only about maybe we're only going to get records of decision after the first EIA processes, maybe in the next 12 months or so, which means even this year, there's likely we're not going to create any jobs from afforestation out of that. That doesn't match, and we cannot create some of those 104,000 jobs that were promised in the master plan because there is no new fiber. Regardless of how much has been invested in processing, that 38 billion means no more jobs created in forestry. If we move on to the next slide, Mike, So there are agreements. So this is where the minister signs an agreement with the community to take over the management of the plantation. But remember, these are communities that don't have resources. These are communities that don't have expertise. They may require support and, importantly, require what we now call post-transfer support rather than just post-settlement in this case, because it's the state transferring those assets. So none of those transfers have happened, Chair. There was a plan, and I think most of us have now gotten used to the term supply chain management or procurement issues that we've been told numerous times. These are the delays for the past 5 years that have caused these partnerships not to come into place. The expectation was to crowd private sector, to work together with communities who receive this and work together with the state around post-settlement support or post-transfer support to rehabilitate this and bring new fiber into the sector, hence create jobs. I have visited Chair 8 of those plantations that were transferred to communities without support, not just financial support, but even simple things like annual plans of operations, documentation that needed to move from the department to the communities in order to manage these plantations very well. Those things had not been at the time. And I had to endure pain of seeing some of these plantations ban at the time when I was visiting with people who did not have support or didn't have means to support themselves. I then came back and I penned a report that this is what we ought to do as a sector, obviously led by our department DFFE, to ensure that this is meaningful transfer to the communities. But that document, I don't know, nothing much has happened to it. So just to say, Chair, as we stand now, none of those plantations are in a process of rehabilitation. We now have a tender which closed, or a bidding process which closed in December, and we have not had the reports as to who will support the rehabilitation of these plantations going forward. Again, no investment into the fiber, hence not much creation of jobs going forward. Maybe let's move to the next one. Next slide, Mike. That deals with, maybe slide 15, that deals with post-settlement support or support for empowerment. Yeah. So on this slide, Chair, this is my last slide here. If you go back to the Forestry Master Plan and look at this well-written plan, you see things that are called success statements. The others may not be very clear, or you may need a lot of understanding to read the rest, deliverables, milestones, targets, and so on. But there is a simple statement there, or for each of those undertakings, there's simple statements called success statements. Look at the success statements, Chair. There hasn't been any move. If you read the success statement says there has to be we have to put in place a support package for beneficiaries of land claims settlements, or we need to put in place a support package for beneficiaries of state assets. That is not there. 5 years down the line, we don't have. There's many reasons. There's many reasons why those have not been achieved, but looking at that 5 years ago, we did not have a support package. 5 years down the line, we do not have a support package. And in the period, we have transferred state assets to people. In the time period, we have settled some land claims, and we're setting up a lot of people for failure because they don't have the required support packages. And Chair, you may learn later on that there are draft frameworks, but what is key also to learn about those draft frameworks is that even though we may have draft frameworks, there's a lot of misunderstanding between the drafters themselves. If you go to the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, they may not agree with things that were drafted by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and the Environment. So this is the state we are in, and it does not augur well for job creation and transformation. So those are the few things that I would like to say going forward. And as I end, if you listen to the words of the president when he was handing over assets to communities at Umzimkulu and a few months ago. Basically, he said, had he known that this post-settlement support is not in place, he wouldn't have linked himself with what we were doing at that point in time. So that's the critical part, and maybe not so good news that I need to bring forward, Chair, and I will end there on my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini.
Chair, can I invite Dr. Heath to carry on with the last two?
Who is going to carry on and go to the conclusion as well?
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Chair, I'll continue. Firstly, good morning, Honourable Chair, Honourable members of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable Minister Okamp and Deputy Minister Swartz, and as well as our DFFE colleagues. I will continue on the issues of forest protection, and firstly would like to address pests and diseases. One of the aims of the master plan was to continue current initiatives to secure our forest resources. And unfortunately, through the process, we saw almost a deliberate dismantlement of a 20-year partnership between FSA, the forestry branch in its many manifestations, from water affairs and forestry to agriculture, forestry and fisheries, and now DFFE. With this partnership, not only addressing our concerns and threats of pests and diseases, but through this partnership, we were able to establish now the biggest forest health research and operational program in the world. We also were fortunate enough to be able to establish a national forest health monitoring program that has not even been equaled by agriculture in South Africa. This has been a first. Unfortunately, with the breakdown of this partnership, all these initiatives and accomplishments are now at risk. And unfortunately, firstly, this MOU has been dismantled, as I say, by direct ignoring instructions from the CFO as well as from the DG in 2022, and later on officials citing PFMA restrictions to enabling them to continue with this partnership between the industry and government. And we must note that these PFMA restrictions that were cited were later then debunked by Deputy Minister Singh, National Treasury, as well as in a meeting with DFFE's own supply chain management and legal services, thanks to the interventions of Deputy Minister Swartz. And it's very concerning that this breakdown in this partnership has now not only resulted in a suspension of the program, but we're also seeing a drop in investment by DFFE in research and protection from 9 million rand a year to a mere 3 million rand a year, which is contradictory to the success statements of the master plan. Very concerning to us is, although that a new program has been put in place, the entity that's been appointed to run a very technical and academic program is not known to industry or any of our academic partners locally or internationally at all, therefore raising concerns about the quality of the program going forward. This also then puts at risk the 75 million co-investment that industry spent in partnership with the DFFE to match the 9 million rand. And we have to mention that the 95 million rand co-investment was a contractual requirement in the previous MOA that was signed between industry and the department. This also leaves our plantation stock at gravely exposed to pests and diseases. Not only does pests and diseases and the threat increase annually and will do so exponentially going forward, but currently we are losing approximately 1.2 billion rand in revenue from the forestry sector due to pests and diseases. And due to the allocation of this funding to a new entity and not continuing the partnership between industry and DFFE, we've also seen that the world-leading capacity that we've collectively built up over the years at the University of Pretoria are now at jeopardy. And unfortunately, a number of staff members with highly technical skills that were key in implementing the National Health Surveillance Program have now been terminated due to the funding not being available anymore. Moving on to forest protection, the forestry branch also spent a number of years of the master plan actively rejecting a standardized cross-industry national fire database that was not only proposed by industry, but was also proposed by the umbrella fire protection associations and collectively through the National Fire Advisory Forum. We also need to note that the recommended national fire database is currently being used by a number of the fire protection associations, government's own conservation agencies, and the Working on Fire program. But unfortunately, after 5 years, we still have not been able to establish this database and come to an agreement on the way forward. We are facing significant threat due to fires. Annually, we lose about 2.8 billion rand to fires just in our sector alone. But we need to recognize that fire management is not just a forestry matter, but is a national matter threatening livelihoods as well as the economy at large. Although we can be proud that collectively through the master plan, we have been able to finally approve or get an approved Forest Protection Association strategy that will be gazetted soon, but unfortunately this is still not resourced and government cannot implement the full strategy where any fiscal requirements are needed, therefore putting additional strain on our FPAs going forward. We're also concerned to see that there's been a collapse of aerial firefighting resources provided by Working on Fire, and although the new tender has now been awarded and all legalities in the court has been concluded, we're still concerned that very under-resourced national firefighting efforts has now seen a reduction in allocation towards it. Industry fully recognizes the fiscal constraints by the department, but to reduce the firefighting capabilities from almost 4.6 billion rand to 1.8 billion rand, we are very concerned on the way forward, and if collectively industry and the resources that will be provided by government through the Working on Fire initiative will be sufficient to address our fire risk going forward. Similar to pests and diseases, this greatly threatens our planting stock, with climate change clearly driving more severe fire seasons, and we can expect that to see this in this year again. And it's also placed a multi-billion rand investment in processing that both Mr. Peter and Mr. Dlamini has referred to, as well as job creation at immediate risk due to threat to our planting stock and our timber resources. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Ronald.
Honourable Chairperson, can I conclude for us?
Just a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. So, Chairperson, as I pointed out, the industry has enjoyed our most successful period of partnership with government and organised labour over the last 6 years. But as you see on the slide, this has not extended to the DFFE, who in actual fact should be our most reliable partners, but are instead the main impediment to growth, employment and transformation and competitiveness in the forestry sector. We mentioned earlier on that in March we were quite geared up in the meeting that Deputy Minister Swartz convened around phase 2 of the master plan, and immediately after that the department did it again with this MOA that has caused us such tremendous anxiety over the last 15 years. So we're in the position now where industry, and I'm speaking for all of those value chains that you see at the bottom of the slide, Honourable Chairperson and members, are no longer able to justify our continued participation in the master plan and our funding of the master plan, with the same officials and with the imminent forest protection crisis remaining unresolved. As the American author Rita Mae Brown wrote, insanity is repeating the same mistakes and expecting a different outcome. We've been doing this and banging our heads against this wall for more than 5 years in actual fact. 2 weeks ago, the Director General asked us for evidence of this malfeasance by the officials. We provided her with 2 pages of supporting incidents and sources and where this could be found, and we also asked her to share this with the Minister and Deputy Minister. And this information has been made known repeatedly to the DFFE over the course of the master plan in innumerable KFA working group meetings, operational management committee meetings, and indeed executive oversight committee meetings. Deputy Minister Swartz has intervened and invited us to a meeting on the 15th of June, in which we hope she will nominate different officials to address these DFFE lapses. Otherwise, we don't believe we will be able to retain a mandate from industry to continue our participation in the next phase of the master plan. I have to say here, Honourable Chairperson, that both Deputy Minister Swartz and Deputy Minister Singh have been trying their level best, but they are not the executive of the department. The officials themselves, particularly when there are the political changes that we have repeatedly experienced as a sector over the last 10, 15 years, occurred. There is nobody watching and demanding performance. So we are really grateful for the opportunity to be able to share with the Portfolio Committee our perspective of how things are going. And we hope that the committee may be able to exercise some oversight and influence to assist in rapid change in delivery from the DFFE, especially, as I said earlier, in the light of the changing global landscape, which could see further deindustrialization in South Africa. Just yesterday, the newspapers carried an article saying that Morocco has now surpassed South Africa for the first time in terms of just manufacturing exporter out of Africa. This is something we should all be concerned about. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Peter, and your delegation for the presentation. With the powers vested in me and, of course, in consultation with my members, we are now going to ask SAFCOL to do the presentation, and the DFFE will be the last to present. SAFCOL, just want to check the person who's going to lead from the SAFCOL delegation.
Chair, Prof.
Mr.
The CEO.
Oh,
yes,
Yeah.
okay. Mr. Nezamvumi, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The CEO will do the presentation. The opening remarks by the Minister are sufficient and the Deputy Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Tata. CE,
Okay.
over to you.
Morning, morning, Chairperson. I was wondering if the presentation will be shared on the screen.
Okay, let me request to ask Chi to assist. Oh, Mr. Ngiswayo, thank you. It is flighted, Mr. Tlamin.
Okay, maybe the next one. This one is for DFFE, the one for SAFCOL.
Oh, okay. Just sorry for that. Mr. Ngiswayo, can you flight the SAFCOL presentation if you have it? If not, Chi and the team, are you able to assist?
no, it's fine. Chair. They will flight, not unless they want me, because I don't have it saved.
Okay.
Pure.
Okay, it's being flighted. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to the members of the committee, Minister, Deputy Minister, and officials of the department, and members of Forestry South Africa. So in terms of background, we can move to the next slide. I think the Minister covered most of the background in terms of the shares that we hold on behalf of the communities. So we basically have the four
Sorry,
special
Chairperson. Chairperson, if you may allow me just to quickly come in.
Minister?
Chairperson, thank you very much. I said that I would leave by 10 o'clock. I am on the road. I've changed devices, so I am still here. I might not be able to participate, but it was very enlightening to hear what I've just heard. But there will be conversations after that. But I am still here, but I just won't be able to participate. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, okay. No, noted. Noted, Minister. Over to you, Mr. Tlamin.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. So in terms of the special purpose vehicles that we have where we hold the community shares is with respect to Siyaqhubeka Forest, Singisi, Amathole, and MTO. So we basically in KZN, Eastern Cape and Western Cape. So ours is to basically look after these shares and ensure that then they are transferred to the respective beneficiaries. So in line with the directive that was given by the then Minister of Public Enterprises, we are busy with that process of transferring these communities. So the key is that we are transferring these shares in line with the shareholders agreement. So if we can move to the next slide, then I can just give an overview of where we are with the transfers. So with Siyaqhubeka, we have transferred the 10% community shares, and this process was successfully completed on the 26th of March, 2025. Similarly, with Singisi, a forest product, we have transferred the 10.49%, and the process was completed on the 11th of September 2024. Now, with Amathole Forest Company, the same applies with MTO. In terms of the shareholders agreement that we have, we still have to establish the community trust. Now, this is a process that is being led by DFFE. We do support, and also the establishment of the community trust will be done by the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. I've lost that slide. So I think this is where we are with both MTO. If you can move to the other slide. I say I've lost it now. Okay, so where we are basically with these two entities, the main thing is to establish that community trust so that we can then identify the rightful beneficiaries.
Just hold on, Mr. Lamy, just hold on. So can you go to I think it's slide 3, the one that you are looking for, Mr. Lamy?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Can you slide 3, please? You are on slide 1. Okay, thank you. I think this is the one that you are.
Okay, we can move one slide back.
Please go back to slide 3. Thank you.
Yes. So we are therefore busy with that process of establishing the community trust for both Amathole Forest and MTO. And then the process then will be, once that community trust has been established, we will then transfer those shares. So in terms of timelines, I think this is where we really need all the assistance that we can get to expedite the process with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. We do have the teams, but we just have to then get that process expedited, and then we can then define exactly the timeline when we will transfer. We are ready to transfer the shares, but we want to do it responsibly and make sure it goes to the rightful beneficiaries. So that's the status update, Honorable Chair, in terms of the transfers of shares that are being held by SAFCOL on behalf of the communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. That was SAFCOL's presentation. I am now going to hand over to DFFE. Ms. Nodada, I noted that you are the one who will be leading the presentation. Over to you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, and colleagues on the call. If we can go on slideshow, please. Okay, I think, okay. So if we can just go straight to slide number 4. Thank you. Honorable Chair and members, in terms of the master plan, I think in terms of background, maybe I will not dwell much on this, as the background has already been provided by the Minister. As we are all aware, this master plan was approved in November of 2020 for a 5-year period to make sure that we are able to achieve targets regarding investment, job creation, transformation, and also to improve competitiveness. Now, on the next slide, it talks to the policy initiatives that are aligned to the master plan, which is the Public-Private Growth Initiative, the Forest Sector Charter Code, the National Development Plan, and also the Reimagined Industrial Strategy. All of these look at how we can ensure that there is transformation in the sector, there is collaboration, there is strengthening in terms of participation of the vulnerable communities and enhance global competitiveness. The next slide looks at the objectives of the master plan with the key commitments. So what happens is that these key commitments, which are employment of 100,000 jobs that are linked to investment and expansion, the investment target of about 30 billion, inclusivity in terms of transformation code, and also competitiveness in terms of improving timber yield and recovery rates, are all measured through the performance indicators. And these performance indicators are wrote down in the next, I think in the next 2 slides. But all of this work is done. Sorry, you can just stick to slide 6, sorry. All this work is done through the 6 key focus areas that deal with a number of issues. And each of those key focus areas, each of the participating social partners, that is government, industry, and labor, are represented. And these key focus areas sit together on a on their scheduled discussions, whereby they then craft the milestones that will impact or that will ensure that the deliverables are achieved, and then those deliverables will input into the key focus, the outcome statements. So each of these KFAs, when they sit, they go through a robust process of identifying what milestone will contribute to what deliverable. And then they ensure that they hold each other accountable to ensure that the work is done. Then on the next slide is where we go into detail in terms of the governance structures. If you look at the bottom one, which is the KFA implementation team, it talks to those key focus area implementation teams that are on the previous slide. And each of those, once they have agreed and discussed what the issues are, set the targets and looked at performance and drafted their reports, those reports are then compiled through the project management office, which then are then presented to the operational manco. So the operational manco then, when it receives these reports, it does an analysis and provides guidance and interventions, if there are interventions that need to be done at that level, and then escalate some interventions into the EOC, which is chaired by the Deputy Minister. So the EOC and the operational manco meet every quarter to look at those reports. And in some cases where there has been delays, there has been attempts to ensure that there are improvement plans that are put in place to make sure that each of these key focus areas are able to function. Then in the next slide, we look at the key performance indicators. So the key performance indicators are aligned to the objectives of the master plan. There's one that deals with investment. Then there are a couple that deals with competitiveness. And then there's 2 that deals with jobs and a couple that deals with transformation. So there was a delay in terms of the collection of data for some of these KPIs, and that data is currently being collected by the DFFE, all the ones that are in amber or mustard are the ones that the DFFE is currently collecting. And then we go into the next slide that then looks at the summary of the deliverables. And I think, Chairperson, you had indicated that we have a total of 87 deliverables, and only 13 have been completed, and 11 of those have been completed by government and 2 by the sector. But we have the biggest challenge of the 35 and the 17 that we still need to look at. So in the 2 slides that look at the summary of deliverables, we see that there are those that are ongoing. And in total, when we compare these slides 9 and 10 to slide 11, when we look at the completed ones, we will have a total of 13. And then we have about 35 deliverables that are ongoing. So some of those deliverables are deliverables that have been delayed. Some of them are those that in their nature are ongoing type of deliverables, like if you have to deal with issues related to promotion and creation of awareness, those would then happen over a number of years. And then I think we can even go to the next slide because it's the same slide, but it looks at each of the key focus areas and how each have managed to achieve the work thus far. Then on slide 11, we see there that of the 87 deliverables, we have 13 that have been completed, 11 by government, 2 by the industry, and the 35 that are ongoing, and the 17 that are redundant are the most deliverables that we need to focus on in terms of the way forward. The ones that are redundant are mostly those that depend on the work that still needs to be done or is being done on the 35. So these targets, if then they are not achieved, it then takes us to a place where we have completely not achieved anything. And most of these 35 are mostly within key focus area 1, and some are in key focus area 2, which then are dealing with growth and expansion within the sector, but also dealing with issues of transformation. If we look at the next slide, just in terms of the detail, which is not extensive in terms of what has been done in the past 5 years. In terms of key focus area 1, which looks at expansion of the resource, maintenance and protection, prior to the completion of the master plan, there were some EIAs that were done by the DFFE, where we have seen that over about 10,500 hectares and 2,400 hectares in KwaZulu-Natal had received authorizations. So we are now in a process of doing the EIA studies for about 47,000 hectares in the Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal, we are in the process of doing the 6,500 hectares. The delays have been experienced, obviously, in the procurement of the EAP, where in some cases the bid was not favorable. In the sense that we were unable to appoint anyone, but now we have managed to appoint someone for the Eastern Cape, and that person has started working, and we have agreed with the service provider that to fast track the process, they will then work according to the district municipalities so that they submit per district municipality than submitting everything at the end of the contract for processing. Then this EIA process will then enable afforestation mainly for the small growers in the 2 provinces that have the greatest potential. Then in the Western Cape, there was over 20,000 hectares that were supposed to be leased, and 14,000 hectares for Southern Cape now has service providers that have come in to invest. We are in the process of finalizing the lease, where we are just waiting for the Department of Public Works to assist with the concurrence. Then the remaining 7,000 was not successful in terms of getting service providers or investors to manage those areas. And we will have to look at, because we have now advertised it twice, we would have to look at alternative options of how this land can be used, so that we reduce the issues of invasions that may occur. Then linked to this is the community forestry agreements that we have signed with the communities. Then on this next slide, we indicate that there are strategic partners that we are in the process of procuring, where the request for proposals were advertised and the bid closed in March of this year and not in December last year, and the evaluation is currently on the way. Also to note that this is the second time we are sending out or issuing this request for proposals, as the first one did not yield any positive results. And what we have done is to relook at what were the issues. And one of the things that we did for this round of proposals was that we allowed for an extension in terms of submission of proposals to up to 60 days, and also gave the industry information in terms of where the plantations are, and then they could go and verify the information for themselves, so that when they put in their tenders, at least they have an idea of what is happening on the ground, and then they can bid accordingly. Then in terms of fire management, we have developed a fire protection support strategy, which was consulted widely and went through both MINMEC and MINTEC, and has now been approved for implementation. And that is the work we are doing in this financial year to implement that strategy. And then we also have provided financial support to FPAs in line with Section 7 of the Act. And we are doing that not within this master plan, but through the Working on Fire program, which is a program that we work closely with as a branch. Linked to this was the amendment of the Act, and also the strengthening of the pest and fire disease management in terms of the online application system that has been launched. Linked to fire management, there was also an issue about the fires that affect the country from our neighboring countries. So we've now finalized the negotiations with all the 6 countries, and 4 of the MOUs have now been submitted to the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development for further processing, so that they can go through a process of signing. Then in terms of transformation, this key focus area looks at how we can increase ownership and economic benefits for our SMMEs through finalization of land claims, leveraging blended finance instruments, and providing advisory support. So in this key focus area, the certification model has been finalized and is being implemented. We know that there are some challenges with regards to some funding for some of the SMMEs to be onboarded, but the work is continuing there. In terms of advisory support and capacity, there is training that is being done, where the communities, especially those that have received management of the plantations, have received. And then there's a draft post-settlement support manual that we are developing in collaboration with the industry and the Commission of Restitution of Land Rights, so that we can then ensure that there is a complete or an overall approach in terms of how do we deal with, or how do we support communities that have received plantations from the department, plus the communities that have received land through the restitution process. We have also finalized the blended finance scheme concept note and the business case. And we are now looking at reprioritizing our funding so that we can then collaborate with a suitable development finance institution. In this KFA, we do note that there has been a delay in terms of the processing of the land claims, which is a long process in terms of consultation and ensuring that all communities involved are able to participate. But it's one of the areas that has been flagged and is being prioritized for the next phase. Linked to that will obviously be the provision of support to the communities where we are indicating that the blended finance scheme is underway. Then in terms of processing, this KRA deals with driving competitiveness and market access, and it has focused mainly on the promotion of locally manufactured timber products. And this is done through a number of ways where in some cases, sorry, I'm now on slide 15, where this is done through seminars and webinars, and also ensuring that there are courses that have been developed to support the timber construction timber construction courses to support the sector in terms of capacity building. And this we are doing through the fiber and processing SETA. Then on the next slide, one of the biggest challenges in the sector is issues related to illegal timber and crime-related activities, where we have seen illegal markets coming up, where there's a need to make sure that we enforce regulations and combat illegal timber related matters. So in doing this, we had to sit down and look at what are the activities or what are the interventions that can be put in place to ensure that we try and deal with this timber theft. We have now started with the participation in terms of the provincial joints, and there has been some progress in some of the provinces, and some provinces are lagging behind. I know that recently there has been letters that have been sent to the provincial commissioners for Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, so that they assist us in terms of the work of joint operations, but also in terms of invitations for us as the master plan social partners to participate in these provincial joints. Also, we've seen a pilot that was done for Ehlanzeni District Municipality, where the industry, the SAPS and other stakeholders were involved. And this was done through a district development model. This was also followed up recently, I think now in May, by a SAFCOL holding a roundtable discussion to find solutions for these crime-related matters, where all the master plan participants were in attendance. Then we also have issues with regarding to the National Regulatory for Compulsory Specifications, which is assisting us in terms of conducting inspections and focusing on illegal treatment of timber, where you find that if the wrong treatment is used, then the timber is not strong enough and may cause collapse of roofs, etc. So this was preceded with the work that the NCRS needed to do in terms of how do they address the hotspots, and developing an SOP on how they will deal with these activities. At this stage, there has been a total of 368 inspections that have been done. There have also been capacity building initiatives for prosecutors to strengthen enforcement, where they are taken through the sector, but also the National Forest Act and the National Veld and Forest Fire Act, to ensure that when they deal with such crimes, they have an understanding of what they need to do and how they need to address certain issues. And then on the next slide, the next focus area deals with research, development, innovation, human resources, and skills development. So,
Mamnotata,
yes, yes.
you only have 8 minutes to finish
Yo.
your presentation.
Okay.
Please
I'll be
try
quick.
to be
Okay,
quick.
I'll
Yeah,
try.
by 12
Apologies.
o'clock we must be done. Yeah.
Apologies,
Okay.
Chair. So in terms of research, there was a skills audit report that was completed, and there is some strengthening of collaboration between government and the sector, and funding is still a challenge. There is a business case that has been developed in terms of how do we then ensure that there is increase of funding in the sector. In terms of key inhibitors, these are areas where they have significant impact in terms of inhibiting the sector. These are related to water, transport, and land. And we have now water use licenses that have been issued, but we still have challenges with regards to diesel rebate and the use of rail for the transport of timber. Then, in short, on slide 18, there are some key challenges that we have identified and some interventions that we are putting in place to make sure that we are able to achieve on what is still outstanding on the sector. Then maybe, Chair, let me move to slide number 19 that deals with the future pathway. And this is an area that I think the minister touched on in terms of the review workshop that was held on the 5th of March, where there was an agreement between the social partners that we continue with the master plan, but we should focus on resolving the constraints that we have so that we can fast track implementation. So in the areas that have been identified, we have categorized them into 4. Those that will ensure that there's creation of jobs, that is the resolution of the land claims, the strategic partnerships for DFFE plantations, and also issues related to afforestation. And then the second ones deal with post-settlement support, which deal with the implementation of the blended finance and also are linked to the strategic partners, because the strategic partners will not only just bring investment, they will also bring the technical support for the plantations so that they are back into full production. And then obviously the issues of crime, the establishment of a commercial crime unit, and then lastly dealing with the key inhibitors, where we will need to look at how we bring in the Department of Transport for the integration of the PBS into the National Transport Framework, issues of freight rail, issues related to terminal cost pressures, but also issues related to the resolution of the diesel rebate challenges. So the next slide, I think it's just giving what we've already spoken about in terms of finalization of the outstanding deliverables in terms of the phase 2 and prioritizing the high impact interventions, strengthening accountability, and also dealing with the key focus area task team meetings and strengthening intergovernmental and stakeholder coordination. So in conclusion, Chair, we do note that the master plan has made notable progress and has made some exceeded in some of the targets, but there is a need to improve on some of them, especially that the implementation has been uneven, and also there's the need for strong coordination between government in totality, the industry and labor, so that we are able to have effective implementation. So going forward, we will focus on accelerating the implementation, strengthening coordination, and consolidating gains to achieve the intended outcomes of the master plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nodada. That is the presentation from DFFE. Before I give to the members for clarity-seeking questions, DM Swartz, you have requested that I afford you an opportunity to speak before I hand over to the members for clarity-seeking questions. Over to you, DM Swartz.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. I'm just showing my face and then I'll switch off my camera, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. Now, the presentation we have been given here today will have facts in it, but some of it I think that I have to respond because we need to take each other on in terms of processes and procedures and administrative processes that are correct. First of all, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, is that we welcome the presentation by Mr. Mike Peter and the other members that have presented to us here today. Now, I first want to be clear that in terms of what we're doing in the master plan, must not be clouded by any other thing, honorable members and chairpersons. And my reasons for this is as follows, that when I came to the department and we came in as the executive, I was given the delegations of part of it being the master plan work. Now, the two slides that were presented here today, I'm seeing them for the first time because it has never been part of the master plan, because the DFFE has assisted in interventions with departments of labor, public works and transport and etc. Now, I want to also comment about the working on fire tender. Now, I want us to understand each other as follows. The working on fire tender was a 5-year contract tender which ends in 2028. Now, the funds that were set aside for this program is the funds which is between 4.5 and 4.6 billion. Now, the DFFE was then taken to court by two service providers because of them disputing the award of the tender. They won in court, but the tender had already been running, which means where we are seated at now, the tender is left with 2 years. Now, in that 2 years, the money that is left is the 1.8 billion, which is what this service provider has been awarded on. So there is no money that has been reduced on the Working on Fire program. It is the original program that was approved, which is supposed to end in 2028. Now, we all know, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, that we cannot deviate from a contract amount because it's the contract amount that was approved. The only thing that happened here is that there was a legal dispute in court and the department had to re-adjudicate. And that is why this new contract is not the original amount, because that amount will end in 2028, which means that the new service provider has to work with the remainder of the budget from the original budget where you had the JV and now having this new contract. Passing on that one, I think we need to also talk about in the presentation where industry is saying that the department has awarded an unknown entity. Now, it must be very clear that as the executive, we cannot interfere in procurement processes. And there is never a way where the department can also be told or influenced by somebody that for pets and disease, this is the contractor, or bidder that you must appoint. Now, when it says unknown, I mean, really, as a department, how do you, which means that we are in fact saying that in 20 years' time, there can be no competition in disease and pests. That is what we are saying. If we want to argue that, to say that an unknown entity has been put in place, if we say an unknown entity, but we are linking it to a 20-year relationship with ourselves and industry, I don't think that it is also correct, because I don't think that anybody in the department, whether it's the DG, whether it's the executive, can actually interfere in procurement processes that are aligned to the PFMA. So if we ourselves are now going to say that an unknown entity, there's concern about an appointment of an unknown entity, which means that new people cannot enter this sector. There can't be new entrants. That is what we are saying. But I'm just wanting to put it clear that when it comes to a concern of an unknown appointment, we cannot interfere in procurement processes. The other issue that I want to talk about is the post-settlement support requires funding, yes. But the funding that we have as the DFFE is to train beneficiaries. We have paid FPA's contributions to the plantations, and that the communities that are managing the plantations, we are going to start providing EPWP to them. So it must also be clear that what is it that as a department we have budgeted for, and what do we fund, and what is our relationship. But I'm also wanting us to be very clear, so that I'll explain to the honorable members that in the master plan itself, even the second phase where we are going to, there is nowhere in the master plan where ourselves and industry in the master plan, there is a section or any written thing that says that while we are working on the master plan, we are going to be dealing with procurement processes, because procurement processes are out of us. I want to make an example. When I had the delegations before, they were taken from me to DM Singh, and then I have them back again now. The issue was that I facilitated, they are correct in this presentation, that for, industry meets with legal and a representative from our finance branch. But in that meeting, which took place at Sunby, because I understood that as an executive, I don't interfere in procurement, I excused myself on that part of the meeting. And I can remember the official that came was Brian, and an official from a finance. But that just shows that as a department, we want to have a solid working relationship with industry. But there is no way we can bend PFMA policies. There is no way we can bend governance policies. Because if governance policies have to be bent and the PFMA policies, then it is something else that we can't participate in. Now, if the second phase of the master plan is...
we still have to note the honorable members, they still have to ask questions. Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I am. As a last chairperson and honorable members, is that for me, the report that I saw from which came from the DG was saying that there are officials that are colluding with service providers. Now that needs solid proof, because you can even go into a forensic investigation. So I have seen the report that was submitted by Mr. Peter, and the DG shared it with me, but the contents of it is saying that there are officials of ours who are colluding with service providers. Now that also borders on a procurement process, and if there is such, and there is proof, of which I did not see the proof as well, it needs a forensic investigation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, TM. Honorable members, I am now going to note hands. I see the hand of Honorable Manaka, followed by Honorable Kumalo, will be followed by Honorable Mukwena, then Honorable De Block, Honorable Makasi, then Honorable Gilankulu. I would like to believe that she is the one return Zoom user. Honorable Kate Gilankulu, she was struggling to raise her
Apologies,
hand.
Chair. It's MP Peters on Zoom user.
Can you rename your gadget, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, Honorable Makasi, you will be followed by Honorable Peters, then the last one will be Honorable Kate Bilangulo. In that order. Mr. Michaels, you are not going to, okay, I think that you, oh, no, you did not raise your hand, sorry. In that order, Honorable members?
Ndolibuwabo Chairperson. Let me start by greeting the attendees, the Deputy Minister, Chief Executive Officer, Chairperson of the Board, Professor Nesamvuni. Greetings to all of you. Honorable Chair, thank you for affording me the opportunity. I just want to start with the question on the slide. I think it was presented by the department. The slide which states which talks about 145,000 people who are employed. It states timber growing and associated 95,000, processing and associated it says 35,000. When I do the calculations, the total of this slide is 130,000, not 145,000. I just want to check with the numbers that are missing. It's about 15,000. Are they falling under this category, or are they following somewhere else? And out of this 145,000 which they wrote, I just want to check, are they all permanent? How many are seasonal contracts? Are there some informal positions? The other thing, what methodology was used to calculate these employment figures? House Chair. Now let me come to the master plan question, the time frames. The master plan was initially presented as a 5-year plan covering 2020-2025. However, on the presentation, it indicates that implementation runs from 2021-22 to 2025-2026. I heard the minister saying 2026 March. I just want to check with the with the department, was there any formal revision or extension of this master plan? If it was there, when was it approved? And who approved it? And what were the reasons for the change and the impact on these changes? I heard Mr. Michael Peter, yes, when he was talking, he talked of the discrepancies on the master plan. I'm interested. Could he please specify which discrepancies he was referring to? And can he please indicate whether they are related to employment figures, investment commitments, platform transfers, or transforms targets, or implementation of the master plan? Under job creation, I heard Mr. Dlamini saying that the 104,000 jobs that were supposed to be created is like nothing was created. Does the I want to check with him if he believes that 104 job target was realistic. If not, what is the revised target, if there's any, and how many jobs are they planning to create? The other thing is on the transfer, Chair. the shares, the 75% to the communities, and also the remaining 25% for the SAFCOL. I just want to understand: are they in the process of privatization? Because the presentation refers to a model in which up to 75% shares may be held by private companies or private sector participants in certain forestry assets and partnership. Can they clarify whether this effectively constitutes privatization of the state forestry assets? If not, what distinguishes this arrangement from privatization? We did indicate in last week that we need to avoid privatization at all cost, because it will only benefit the few. So we just want clarity from the department, and also with the communities that they are transferring the shares to. We just want to check the level of support that they are going to give. Mr. Michael talked of the 8 communities that were given shares, and according to what I heard and what he said, it's like those communities are failing because they lack support. So with the subsequent transfers that they will be doing, are they having any plan on how best they can support these communities? Because it's like the communities are being set to fail us. Once they are failing, it means they should sell those shares to private companies. We don't want a situation wherein we'll be inviting the capitalists into the forestry industry. That's what I'm thinking, Honorable Austin. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Managa. Honorable Kumalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On presentation number 1, Chair, I'm having these following questions. 1, which communities have been targeted for the advisory support and capacity building? Secondly, what will be the criteria for the blended finance scheme? How will you ensure that it does not have a lot of red tape, while also ensuring that there are strong mechanisms to protect the scheme from potential fraud and corruption? What are the possible development finance institutions being considered to administer this scheme? Thirdly, Chair, why were prosecutors only trained into provinces, that is Mpumalanga and Western Cape? How often are the inspection by the National Regulatory for Compulsory Specifications on illegal treatment of timber, and what is done upon receiving the findings? What practical measures are being put in place to protect the forest during the day and at night? What is the progress on reported cases? Lastly, Chair, what's the timelines for resolving land claims in forestry? And how will the sector manage disruptions during transitions? On presentation number 2, Chairperson, are there clear dividend policies or revenue sharing frameworks to ensure that communities actually benefit financially from these shares? What is the clear time-bound roadmap for completing all outstanding transfers? What is the current financial value of the transferred SAFCOL shares, and what is the projected impact on communities and SAFCOL? Beyond dividends, Chair, what financial support ensures the long-term viability of community trust holding these shares? Beyond dividend, Chairperson, what financial support ensures the long-term viability of community trust holding these shares? I think the last, Chair, how has the need of community beneficiaries need assessed to confirm that share ownership is the most effective solutions? To the last presentation, Chairperson, what were the reasons for only achieving 460 jobs in processing against the 104,000 sector commitments? What plans are in place to increase this numbers? This, Chairperson, this is really regrettable. Vast difference in numbers. Who are the beneficiaries of the almost 1 billion for Black participants in the forestry industry? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kumalo. Honorable Mugwen.
Thank you very much, Chair. Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. On the first presentation, how can the master plan ensure sustained cooperation from the DPWI to avoid future delays in plantation transfer and lease finalization, especially in critical regions like the Western Cape? From the presentation, one can gather that the master plan is going to continue cognizant of the fact that the 5 years has lapsed. Has the department identified areas that need strengthening or that need to be revisited, taking into account the current condition? How will the master plan ensure that forestry expansion and management practice actively contribute to rather than detract from South Africa's biodiversity goals and climate mitigation target in the long term? While the master plan aims to improve competitiveness, it doesn't detail how it will address potentially future disruption in global timber markets, such as sudden prices drops, changes in international demand, or new barriers imposed by key importing countries. What contingency plans are in place to mitigate the impact of such external economic shocks on South African forestry business and employment? How is the master plan preparing the forestry sector for more extreme weather events like drought, like floods, intense fires, changes in growing seasons, and the potential for new pests and disease to emerge or spread due to shifting climate patterns? As the sector evolves, how will the government, industry, and labor share responsibility and collaborate? What long-term strategies will keep their partnership adaptive and effective, especially in regulation and infrastructure? On the second presentation, Chair, what analysis supports the projected demand for forestry product, and how does it factor into long-term viability of the share transfer? Is there demonstrable community demand for active participation in SPV governance, or is the focus solely on financial benefits? What contingency plans exist if the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform faces delays in establishing community trust? What structure, governance model, and criteria will be used to establish the trust under the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform? And who are the intended beneficiaries, given that these details are not yet specified in the report? What are the limitations of a minority stake transfer in terms of community beneficiaries' influence over SPV operations? What are the limitations of the current beneficiary identification process, and how are the disputes managed? On the last presentation, what structures interventions are in place with SAPS and SANDF for rapid response in combating illegal mining, violence, and intimidation in the forestry industry? What plans are in place to address the issue pertaining to less than 10% of the afforestation target being met? None of the 1.1 billion in planned private sector invested could be made. 9 of the 104,000 new jobs were created, etc. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. Before you, Honorable Diplo, I just want to remind honorable members that we have amended our agenda earlier, and then presentation 3 was made number 1. So I want to caution members that when you say presentation 1, please be specific whether DFFE, SAFCOL, or Forestry SA, because I don't want even presenters to be confused, because we have amended our agenda. Over to you, Honorable de Blok.
Thank you, Chair. And let me use that note to just apologize for setting the cat amongst the pigeons. But I would like to thank everyone for being flexible and supporting my proposal to change the agenda around. I think it was the right decision in hindsight, given the presentation that was made by Forestry SA, and I'd like to thank them for that. What they presented to us was quite a damning report on the lack of progress on the Forestry Master Plan and the breakdown of relations between industry and government. And I was hoping that some of the direct responses to those, I don't know what to call them, allegations or statements, would be forthcoming in the presentations from SAFCOL and more importantly from the department, but they were not. So I would like to thank the DM for stepping in at the end of that presentation and addressing some of those concerns. But I also want to comment on some things that the DM said. On the concerns about an unknown entity, I think it's a false argument to say that people are saying that we should not have new entrants into this economy. I think what is being said is that it is a fairly close-knit industry. People know each other, and when it comes to specialized forestry services, you are going to know either the name of the individual or the company if they have any track record or experience in this industry. And I think it's a very valid concern that someone has been appointed that nobody within industry has heard of. This is not an isolated incident, and I'm quite concerned at how vehemently the DM argued this to protect this contractor, because it's been seen all over government that procurement often, especially in cases where corruption is involved, appoint people who are unable to do the job and or have been put together at the last minute to enable some corrupt dealing with people who shouldn't be awarded government work. So I don't think it is an unreasonable concern to raise, and I would like the department to look into how this was awarded. Was it above board, and who were the other applicants, and why was this particular service provider selected? I think that's a very valid question, and if the department can't commit in this meeting to do it, then I will request the department to do it in a parliamentary question, because I think this is a very valid concern that's been raised. So I cannot agree with the DM on her arguments there. And I also want to say on the working on fire and the FPA issue, the DM knows this is something I've been involved in, not necessarily linked to forestry areas, but across the Free State and Northern Cape around non-payments. And I know that this is still a case of a lot of stress among all the FPAs, and we're seeing it reflecting in the forestry areas as well now. And it's not simply good enough to say, well, there was a court case and there was a ruling which has created inconvenience. It's the department's job to come up with solutions that move this forward and benefit everyone in the long run and get working relationships going. So again, I don't think that explanation was sufficient. On to SAFCOL, I think I've mostly been covered on the transfer of shares, which seem to be very meager and very slow, and we'd like some explanation for that, so I won't spend any more time on that. And then on to the last presentation by the DFFE. I'm just concerned, Chair, that the successes that have been put forward in the Forestry Master Plan are increases in investment and transformation and coordination. We've increased investment, but not had any success on the operational front. We haven't grown the pie. We haven't developed new businesses. We haven't empowered communities. We haven't grown new jobs. These are surely the main objectives of the Forestry Master Plan. The Forestry Master Plan is not just there to bring in more money. It's to use that money to benefit the economy, to benefit communities, to benefit businesses, to get forestry working.
So I'm a bit concerned that we are being painted a picture of, oh, there are these substantial successes, and now we are actually facing a situation where industry is saying it is threatening to withdraw from the second phase of this master plan because they feel that they are funding a project that is not working and government doesn't want to work with them. So it's very, very concerning that that presentation didn't address most of the concerns raised by Forestry SA, and it also is painting us a picture of reasonable success in the face of a complete other picture being painted by industry. So just in closing, I note that there's the meeting on June 15th. I am very heartened that that is in place and that there is some engagement going to be happening at high levels around this. I'm very concerned about what's been presented here, and I would like to request a report on that meeting afterwards on the outcomes and the action points, if possible, signed off by both industry and government to ensure that this is a message that's been endorsed by both parties. I don't want us to be fed one picture and the truth is another. But I'm heartened that that meeting is taking place, and I hope that that is going to take this meeting forward and come to some constructive solutions, because what we've been painted here is simply not good enough. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable de Blok. Honorable Makasi.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the DM and officials on the platform, including honorable members. I would want to start to ask questions to SAFCOL, Chair. What are the specific bottlenecks delaying the establishment of a community trust, particularly in Amathole and MTO Forestry, and who is accountable for these delays? The other question is, what mechanisms are in place to ensure that community beneficiaries are properly identified, verified, and represented? How is government ensuring that these community trusts have the capacity, governance systems, and financial literacy to manage shareholding effectively? Given that SAFCOL holds minority stakes in all SPVs, how will the transfer impact its strategic influence and financial sustainability going forward? What economic benefits have already accrued to communities where transfers were completed, and how are these being measured? And the next questions are for SA Forestry or Forestry SA. What has enabled the progression of achieving a level 2 triple BEE rating for the industry from level 4 5 years ago? And what are the reasons for only achieving 460 jobs in processing against the 104,000 sector commitment? And what plans are in place to increase the numbers, as it regrettably shows a vast difference in numbers? And Mr. Dlamini, when he was presenting, I think he made touch of certain provinces indicating the breakdown. And I have tried to follow, but he was a bit too fast for me. And pardon me if it is reflecting on the presentation, Chair, but if he could please provide a breakdown, as he has mentioned and done that in the meeting. And then lastly, Chair, on the master plan presentation, KFA 3 has no deliverables to continuity-based programs. How are they then measuring success of these continuous programs and checking critical aspects to the KFA moving forward? And what is contributing to the overall low performance of deliverables across all KFAs? And out of the 87 deliverables, only 13 were completed, Can they then mention what the reason is for this, and can it be attributed to lack of capacity or financial constraints? What is causing the minimal role of industry players in achieving the deliverables, noting that the industry is largely dominated by them? What was agreed to in terms of funding, as well as performance indicators within the industry? What is the progress on the finalization of leases pending in the Department of Public Works and DPWI? Concurrence of 1423A hectares in the Southern Cape, and what are the alternatives being explored as a result of irresponsiveness as far as the call for proposals? What is the current conditions of the 39 plantations managed by communities? What support are they being given? And what was agreed upon as key deliverables of the community forestry agreement model? And what resulted in the first call for strategic partners not yielding the intended results, and what have they done differently in the second call to ensure that the goal is achieved? And lastly, Chair, as this is the second advert for strategic partners, where is the first one? Because I did not see it, and if there is comparison, did it yield positive results? And what kind of partnerships are sought through the call for the strategic partners? Is there a rand value attached to this? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Makas. Honorable Peters, you'll be followed by Honorable Pilangol. Honorable Peters.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd just like to start by agreeing with Honorable De Block on the concerns raised and how the department is dealing, and that we would have hoped that solutions would have come through in the presentations, which it actually hasn't. I've been covered on many of the other issues, but I think I just like to ask how DFFE and SAFCOL can provide the committee with a detailed plantation by plantation performance report, including targets, actual performance, infrastructure condition, community benefits, and corrective actions for underperforming sites, as well as how much funding is required to address infrastructure maintenance backlogs and what budget has been allocated for these purposes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Peters. Honorable Bilankulo.
Thank you very much, Chair. And good morning, everyone in the platform. Chairperson, firstly, I would like to ask or to pose my questions to the first presentation that was from the South African forestry sector. Of the 145,000 jobs created, what are the demographics? And in which parts of the country are these jobs concentrated? Because I think, Chair, it will be simpler for us also to understand where these jobs have been created. For instance, I can give an example. If it's in Limpopo, if it's in the district of Mopani in Guyana, if it can be stated like this, it will be simpler even for somebody who is attached to that province to just have an oversight. The second question is, why is there a variance in the reported transformation levels, these being level 3 and level 2? My second question, Chair, goes to SAFCOL. How does transferring SAFCOL's minority shares to communities align with or contradict the original 2001 forestry restructuring purpose? How do the current forestry sector and economic circumstances differ from 2001, and how might this affect the share transfer's success? What metrics will measure the success of the share transfer's purpose for community upliftment, and how will they account for long-term sustainability? Chair, how will the share allocation process ensure constitutional equality and non-discrimination for community beneficiaries? The last one here, Chair. Why has there been uneven progress across provinces, with some transfers completed, like the KZN Eastern Cape, while other Western Cape have not even been initiated? My last question, Chair, goes to the master plan. How can the forestry sector ensure fair, consistent diesel rebates to control costs, and what long-term measures can prevent future disruptions? When will the National Transport Framework be updated to include PBS, and what are the specific benefits and challenges of this integration for the forestry sector's logistics? How can the forestry sector build resilience against future constraints in rail and port logistics? And what alternative transport solutions can be developed or enhanced? Noting that there are commitments to invest 30 billion into the implementation of the plan, how much was sourced, and who were the funders, and how were they received funds to spend? What are the contributing factors to the inability to complete any tasks for KFA2? The last one, Chair. What is the clear way forward and plan in place to deal with the redundant activities? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Pilangulu. I do not see any other hand. I think, Honorable Peters, yours, it is a legacy hand. From my side, I only have two questions for DFFE. To the team of DFFE and the DM and colleagues, you know, our local plywood, veneer boards, and fiber board product industry is facing a crisis of survival due to the influx of cheap substandard imports that hollow out our local production, and also they're killing South African jobs. And while we welcome announcement that strict pre-board standards checks will come into effect in September 2026 for Chinese products, the strategic details remain dangerously vague. Will the department explicitly confirm whether plywood, veneer boards, and fiber boards are included on that restricted list of Chinese products? And furthermore, given that Brazil accounts for nearly a third of these imports, what is the strategic rationale for excluding them from these mandatory quality protocols? And how will DFFE prevent illicit importers from simply routing substandard Asian boards through South American trade channels? And the last question, I think some of the members might have raised it, but honorable members, transformation is a core pillar of the Forestry Master Plan. Yet this presentation is completely silent on the sector's most critical equity and empowerment metrics. Given that the 2025 target explicitly mandated a 25% black ownership threshold, including workers and broad-based schemes alongside full forestry sector charter ratings for SME supply chain integration. Why has this report failed to provide a transparent scorecard of our progress? Will the department provide this committee with the exact current percentage of black equity ownership across existing forest enterprises and name the specific corporate players that are failing to meet these equity transfer targets? Those are the two questions for me for DFFE. I am then going to note, firstly, I will start with Forestry SA to respond to the questions that were directed to them, will be followed by SAFCOL. Then DFFE will respond, and Honorable DM Swartz also indicated that she would like to also respond after DFFE. In that order, colleagues.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you to the Honourable Members for really what were outstanding questions, some of which we would like to hear the answers to ourselves. Chairperson, if I can start with Honourable Mananga. I'm sorry, or I'm pleased to say, Honourable Mananga, that in fact is a typo, so apologies. And the good news is that the typo is in the right direction. So the total jobs is 145,000, but that 95,000 in the primary sector, which is timber growing, is supposed to be 105,000. So we haven't lost 10. It was just incorrectly reported, and apologies for that. I'm glad Chairperson and Honourable Mananga raised that question, however, because she asks, where do these figures come from? Those figures that we have are 5 years old. And the reality of the matter is that the country does not have accurate figures on employment. Not just on employment, we don't have accurate figures on the state of the sector. The DFFE, unfortunately, I think 3 times in the last 15 years, has failed to produce the commercial timber resources and roundwood processing report. Their last attempt, when they appointed somebody, they had to do 3 years, going back 3 years, so the report was not very accurate. We, in fact, bid just this year to do the report for the department, but the bid was declined, or I think they cancelled the bid. Similarly, the DFFE are supposed to produce the state of the forests report, both for Parliament and for reporting into the Food and Agricultural Organisation, and that bid has also just been cancelled. So the absence of accurate information on the state of the sector is indeed a concern for us, as it is, I'm sure, for the parliamentarians. We've actually, in fact, launched a PIA application to the department to try and understand why our bid to produce the Commercial Timber Resources report was unsuccessful, given that we represent over 93% of timber growers in the country. So we are able to reconcile what the department produces with our own figures. So that's on that. Then Honourable Mananga also asked around the discrepancies, and which discrepancies. She answered the question herself, and the last part of her question is that the discrepancies which I was referring to were on the progress as reported by the branch head, Ms. Nodada, versus our reports to Parliament. And those discrepancies, I have to say, play out again in master plan meetings, where it's the KFA meetings, the Oversight Committee or the Operational Management Committee. When the Project Management Office gives a report, it is often at odds with the reports that we're getting from the DFFE. Then Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Kamala asks which communities are targeted for support and blended finances and which DFIs are being considered to administer the scheme. Well, I think the branch needs to answer which DFIs are being considered. But what we can tell you is when former Minister Creasy was Minister and the DG actually came with her into that portfolio, we were asked for a list of plantations in which industry would potentially be interested in partnering with government and communities to recapitalize and create employment. So the plantations, and I think it was Honourable Kamala who then asked later about which plantations and what progress. Those plantations have been very clearly identified by industry along with the communities that are associated with them. And then that question that was linked to that is, so what about the land claims and how it's going with land claims? Our industry has never shied away from land claims. In fact, we led the process of the development of settlement, land claim settlement models with former Minister Klingwana. And we are now on the second rotation in most instances. The Minister referred to Singisi, Siyaqhubeka, Amathole, and MTO. Those leases have been running in some cases for the second rotation, and all of those areas had land claims underneath them. So land claims are not something that our industry shies away from. We believe very strongly in the imperative of restoring land and the benefits of that land to communities. Then Chair, Honourable Khumalo also asked what happens when timber theft is found out. I think I said in the chat there that we estimate the theft of the state's plantations, which are public plantations, to be upward of 250 million rand in stolen timber that's been taken. So that's why I said we welcome the DM suggestion that a forensic audit should be launched. We in fact asked for this previously or recommended to government. We said they should perhaps get the SIU in there so that it's fully independent to see what happened, who are all the people involved in this very organized, syndicated timber theft that's taking place primarily in the state's plantations. In terms of what was done when timber theft is found out, I'm alarmed to tell the Portfolio Committee that several years ago, our Operations Director, Mr. Francois Weberholzer, who's actually joining us today online, was invited to a meeting that the department called, where they said they had caught a whole lot of timber thieves and they've caught a whole lot of stolen timber from the government plantations. And they asked industry whether the industry would be prepared to buy that timber. And so we thought, well, that was so that the fiscus can get the revenue from it. And they said, no, what they wanted is industry to buy the timber so that they can compensate, reimburse the timber thieves for the costs that they incurred in stealing the state's timber. That's how ludicrous it was. And it was around that time that I think we wrote to the former Director General and said to him, you're going to have to get some sort of investigation going on. So we strongly support that recommendation from Honourable Khumalo. In terms of why, and a number of the honourable members have asked why only 450 jobs as opposed to the 104,000 jobs. The answer, Honourable Chairperson, in the presentation is that most of the jobs that we had sought to create are in the primary sector. So that's the new afforestation and the recapitalisation of the department's plantations by the private sector in partnership with communities. And again, those things didn't happen for the reasons that we offered, and which Ms. Nodada also reinforced around supply chain and service providers and so on. So again, the really important thing about new afforestation and the recapitalisation of the government's degraded plantations is one, that is where all the jobs come from, and two, as Mr. Dlamini pointed out, that is the only source of new fibre for the country. So all those massive investments, and I'll speak to that now because another honourable member asked wherever those investments taking place, that we're all excited about, they have to be fed with feedstock. They need a supply of raw materials. And unfortunately, that raw material can only come from new afforestation and the recapitalisation of the government's plantations, neither of which has taken place, as Mr. Dlamini pointed out. The other question that Honourable Khumalo asked around, where's this 1 billion rand that's been provided by the DOA, the IDC, and so on and so forth come from? So the answer is there. A lot of it has been blended finance. And what has it gone into? It's gone largely into supporting communities and black empowerment partners, including black industrialists in established businesses, which is a good thing. And that answers one of the other honourable questions, members' questions. How have we gone from level 4 to level 3 to level 2? A lot of that has been through black shareholding and equity in established large-scale businesses, which is wonderful. We support that. We welcome that. But it's also why Mr. Dlamini and industry laments the lack of post-settlement support and post-transfer support by the DFFE, because that support is targeted at small-scale timber growers, small-scale black-owned businesses in the industry, and that support has still not been forthcoming for 5 years. So we were pleased that that question was asked. Then Honourable Khumalo also asked how to keep the master plan process and the partnership alive, and we believe that's a really critical question. Two things that we would offer that may provide hope. The first is that, while I pointed out in my opening, we've had repeated political changes for forestry over the last decade and longer, which have allowed the forestry branch to act with impunity or without proper scrutiny or management oversight. We do at least have two things. Firstly, a highly credible project management office facility, which is provided by TIPS in the DTRC, which we fought very hard to get in, so that we would have an honest broker or a shared in card of progress that we could all accept. And the second thing that gives us hope we might be able to keep this partnership alive is that all the master plans are actually overseen by the presidency, who convene a master plan steering committee. So we're hoping that the presidency at some point might also start to recognize that things are creaking. In fact, it's a crying shame, Honourable Chair, because the presidency will always tell people that the forestry sector master plan is one of the best sector master plans in the country, because we have a functional PMO, We meet regularly, we discuss the issues robustly, but as you've heard today in the presentation, and as some of the honourable members have recognised, after all of that effort and input, we still haven't moved the needle on the key 5 DFFE undertakings in the master plan, which are the very basic undertakings that are supposed to be underpinning the employment failures that we've reported on, and that are undermining the investment sustainability of our sector. Then Chair, Honourable de Block didn't ask a question, but we just have to say we wholeheartedly support his comments. We too would like questions to the answers that he has raised. Honourable Makasi asked how we achieved level 2. I mentioned just now a lot of that was that through black equity partnerships, and a subsequent question, I can't remember, it was Honourable Bilankudu asked about it, is how did this come about and in which companies, and what in fact, actually, Honourable Chair, it was you asked about the 25% target. We continue that the 2 largest companies in our industry, which are SAP and Mondi, have both exceeded a 30% black equity ownership and management control target. And that is a significant driver of us having achieved level 2. Then I think it was also Honourable Bilankula that asked about the discrepancy between level 3 and level 2 and so on. The level 2 is an aspirational goal. When we signed originally the former public-private growth initiative, which was the precursor for the forestry sector master plan, the presidency asked, what does this industry think it can do in terms of investment, in terms of jobs, and in terms of transformation? And we said at that time we were level 3 and we were sincerely hoping we could reach level 2. Unfortunately, we dropped to level 4 as a result of the impacts of COVID-19. We very quickly regained level 3. And then as I reported today, the Forest Sector Charter Council in their meeting last week or the week before advised that the new report coming out suggests that the industry may in fact have achieved level 2. So that's how that's come about. Then also what Honourable Bilankula asked around how are we managing costs and what measures we put in place. What a fantastic question, because with the madness that's been visited on the world by Trump and other countries that are putting up protections and so on, one of the only things we can do, particularly in the face of a stronger rand, because we're an export-facing industry. So when the rand strengthens, which of course we like as a country, it hurts our exports, and not just in our sector and other sectors. And we don't want to fight against a strong rand. We want a strong currency. It's good for consumers. But what we can do then, to Honourable Bilankula's point, is manage costs. So FSA has appointed somebody to support all of our members, small, medium, and large, in cost control. We're doing cost and productivity benchmarking in all of the operations. We are very pleased that government has finally approved the diesel rebate, which we think will be a tremendous shot in the arm for all sectors to increase South Africa's competitiveness internationally. Honourable Bilankula, we could not support your call more for the formalisation of PBS. We have written to Honourable Minister Creasy and her predecessor previously to say this PBS was a pilot project that should have been adopted mainstream. It reduces the number of timber trucks on the road. It reduces our carbon emissions. It reduces our costs. That's the one thing. And the second thing that Honourable Bilankula mentioned, which I touched on in my presentation, is we have now a fantastic relationship that is developing with the CEO of Transnet Freight Rail, Mr. Russell Bikes, and his CEO, Ms. Michelle Phillips. They are genuinely working hard to try and get non-perishable freight like timber and other non-perishable freight off-road onto rail by investing in rolling stock for forestry and so on. In terms of who made most of the 38 billion rands in investment that Honourable Bilankula mentioned, which companies, I'm pleased to tell you SAPI, Mondi and PG Bison, all 3 of whom are represented in today's engagement, carried the vast majority of that investment. In fact, His Excellency the President opened the SAPI expansion down at Umkomaas at their SAFCOL mill 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was, to celebrate that investment, as well as a number of investments made by the sawmilling industry. So that's how that 38 billion rand is constituted. But once again, and I'm sorry to sound like a stuck record, we lament the lack of new feedstocks, new raw materials to support those investments. And in terms of where did the money come from, I don't know. We don't have sight of that, Honourable Chair, but we're guessing that a lot of it would be from own capital in those companies and leveraged finance from the banking institutions. I just want to see if I've missed any of the others. Okay, and then perhaps, Chair, just in closing, your question around plywood, I know it was asked of the DTRC or of government, but we really do welcome it because, as I said, we were hoping phase 2 of the master plan would focus on that. Now that we've established a strong partnership with government and with organised labour, can we stand together as a country and make South Africa more competitive in the face of rising barriers that we're seeing internationally and an increased level of unsustainably or subsidised products coming into the country? And I can just tell you, Honourable Chair, in response to that question, that we have for the first time in FSA's history in this current year, in the last 6 months, supported 4 applications by companies, forestry companies, for protection from the DTRC and ITAC against cheap imports. So your question is really well asked, because if we don't manage that very carefully, like the Indians do and other countries do, you're going to see rapid deindustrialization, not just in our sector, but in other manufacturing sectors. Honourable Chair, I hope I've covered most of the questions. If I haven't, we would be delighted to submit written responses to yourself to share with the honourable members in due course.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. I think you have managed to cover almost all the questions. SAFCOL, can you then respond to the questions that were directed to you?
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to the members as well for the questions. I'll do my best to answer all of them at one go, but I might move to specifics with each member if there are areas that I miss. So maybe just to give a perspective on the minority shares that we hold on behalf of the communities. The first question from Honorable Mana was whether SAFCOL is being privatized. The answer is no. The current SAFCOL is not being privatized. The issue of minority shares is a historical one. This is a project that started way back in 2001 by government through the Department of Public Enterprises. So the SPVs then were formed. Now, also to provide clarity, in these areas where these SPVs were formed, which is the Siyaqhubeka, Singisi, Amathole, and MTO, SAFCOL does not operate in that area. So ours is we were tasked to look after the shares on behalf of the communities. So basically what we do, we sit in the boards of these companies and ensure that the value of these shares are protected. So we work very closely with the DFFE because DFFE manages the lease agreement so that there is sustainable forest management in these areas. So yeah, just for clarity, SAFCOL is no longer in Western Cape, in Amathole, Singisi. In Siyaqhubeka, we only hold 9% shares of our own in that company. So that has been the major role we've been playing. So after we got the directive from the then minister to transfer these shares to the rightful beneficiaries, obviously the blueprint that we used was the shareholders agreement. So the beauty about that blueprint is that it's clear who are the shareholders. In the case of SQF and Singisi, the shareholders agreement was clear who are the beneficiaries. So that those beneficiaries were identified early enough. So we then confirmed that the rightful beneficiaries are indeed the one with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, with obviously the assistance of DFFE. So hence it was easy and quicker to transfer the shares that we hold in SQF, Siyaqhubeka, and Singisi. Then on the contrary, when it comes to Amathole and MTO, yes, there is a shareholders agreement. It's clear who are the shareholders. However, in terms of the community trust, it was not well defined. Hence, we are now in that process to identify the rightful beneficiaries. So we are reliant in that regard because as I've indicated, we are not on the ground as SAFCOL. We sit in the boards of this company and look after the shares. So we are reliant on the information that is available from Rural Development and Land Reform, and also with the assistance from the DFFE. Yes, I do admit the process has been a bit slow, but we need to do the right thing. It's not a process that we would rush because we have to have 100% certainty that we are transferring these shares to the rightful beneficiaries. So the timelines are really dependent on basically establishing that trust, which there is a team already in place. It consists of SAFCOL, Rural Development, and DFFE. So the consultation is there on the ground. So once then the trust has been established, as I indicated, we will transfer the shares immediately. And that's the best option we prefer because then that structure will then manage the shares going forward. Obviously, once a trust is formed, it will be well equipped in terms of ensuring it's got expertise of managing those shares or whether they want to reinvest in the companies that are on the ground. So that structure will be well equipped in that regard. So hence the slow process, but we are doing our best to expedite it. But we need to get the information from the historical records, which are with rural development in terms of the rightful beneficiaries. So I think Honorable Kumalo, you wanted to get the fair value, the value of these shares. So a fair value will have to be determined in each of these entities. I think it will be specifically the Amathole and MTO. So we'll have to appoint a competent service provider to do that well before the transfer is made. So at this point, I won't have those numbers. So I think the Honorable Makasi, you touched on the bottleneck. So really the bottleneck is just getting the community trust established and then follow the prescripts of the shareholders agreement. And then the process can then be expedited. I think the main thing thereafter, in terms of sustainability, as I indicated, we have the lease agreement being managed by DFFE. So we will then ensure that obviously there is sustainable forest management thereafter. But for SAFCOL, our interest then will be to ensure that once those shares have been transferred, obviously the sustainability going forward, but we'll be working with the DFFE in that regard. I think in a nutshell, I know I may have covered most of the issues at high level. I've tried to summarize the issues that were raised around the shares, unless I've missed something. So, Chair, I will stop
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. But I think you need to commit on responding in writing with regards to the question that was asked by Honorable Kumalo and not just say you don't have the numbers. We will then await for the written response with regards to that question.
Noted, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Ms. Nodada, DFFE?
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for the questions. Honorable Chair, for the questions that require detailed information, our request is that we submit that detail to you. I will try and cover some of the questions, and then I will ask Mr. Matiani to add on issues of post-settlement support, including the blended finance, and maybe cover anything that I may have left out. Yes. So if I go to the questions by Honorable Emanako. The question was, there is an understanding that this is a 5-year plan for implementation. So has there been a formal extension? So the process that we were doing in March with the industry and labor and all the other government departments that are involved in the master plan was to ascertain whether there is a need to continue with the master plan. And once that need has been ascertained, which we did in March, then we would approach a cabinet for that approval so that we can then continue. That is why we then also identified those priority areas that needed to be attended to, especially those that the department is involved in. And then in terms of the discrepancies, I think Mike responded, but I think he even indicated that the number of jobs that I provided. I think in our presentation, we just indicated that we are busy with the collection of data and did not give the numbers. So I think the numbers that you were referring to are mainly on the slide that was talking to the 145,000 people that are employed. Then Honorable Khumalo asked about the prosecutors. The prosecutors, we are training in all provinces on a cycle basis and depending on their availability at that time. So this is part of our annual plan or annual plan of operation that we do these awareness trainings for all the different stakeholders, and then we set up these meetings depending on who's available at what time, and then we would have different schedules for the stakeholders. So they are all trained in all provinces, and maybe we just indicated only for those two. And then Honorable Mokoena asked about how do we ensure that there is sustained cooperation with the DPWI. I think the main challenge with DPWI was that because they are the landowners and we are the user department, what they don't want is once someone has finished working on the land, so when the lease is ended, that land lies fallow. So what they wanted us to do was to have an exit plan for those 50-year leases. So we had to go through a long discussion of making them to understand that it becomes difficult to commit to say you're going to have an exit plan of a 50-year lease. Is it not better that we provide an exit lease at least 5 years before that lease expires? Because in that way, you would then have received an indication whether the current person who's leasing is going to extend or whether you need to go out and do a new procurement process to get a new partner coming in. And then you also deal with issues of transferring that on land to the next person and also dealing with issues of closing up the operations, etc. So once that was understood, we know now that the current concurrence that we are requesting has been signed off by their deputy minister. So we're just waiting for their minister to sign off. And once that is signed, because we've already drafted the lease agreement, it has already been vetted, we will then take it through for the approval process. In terms of the areas of strengthening in the master plan, especially for phase 2, I think what would be most important for us is to fast track implementation, especially on the areas where we need jobs to be created, and make sure that within this year there's considerable improvement in terms of what is being done. I think what has happened now that we already have people, the EAP working in the Eastern Cape, we know we are going to get the results. We are getting the EAP for KZN, then we know that by next year we will get those results in terms of the record of decisions. And then with the strategic partners, we are evaluating on that on that tender. And then with the 10 bids that we've received, we are hopeful that some of them will be able to be successful, and then we can have some of these plantations being managed and being brought back into full production. Okay, then there was something on what is being done to address global timber markets in terms of price drops and etc. If my memory serves me well, there was one of the deliverables, I think in KFA 6, that was wanting to do some benching exercise that I think we may have to revisit, so that we just ensure that in going into the future and looking at the questions that were being asked by you, Chair, that were responded to by FSA, we then are able and are equipped for such when such do happen. And then there was a question, I think, from Honorable Makasi on the KFAs. How are we measuring success and checking critical aspects? I think in my presentation, I did mention that the KFA teams are made up of government, that is all government departments that have an input in that particular KFA, industry and labor. So they have that responsibility, all those social partners, to make sure that whatever deliverable milestone is put in and is being tracked, there is measurement in terms of whether it's moving forward or not. And that is why then there would be times where there's intervention that is required for us to go and get either it's support from other departments or whatever the case may be, or intervention in terms of our own deliverables that we need to work on. So in this way, we cannot say that there is a minimal role of the industry in the master plan, because they sit in all the KFA discussions, they sit in all the structures, and the reports that come from those KFA discussions are reports that are a collective report from all the social partners. Okay, and then in terms of Honorable Peters, she has asked for detailed information on plantations, which we will provide in terms of what are the detailed plantations, what are the corrective actions, and what funding is available, and how much is there we have budgeted for. Then, okay.
Is it me who is muted, or is it's Miss Nodada? We've lost her.
We can't hear her too.
Yeah, because I thought it was from my side. Miss Nodada, sorry, we
Can you
can't
hear
hear
me
you.
now?
Yes, we can hear. Yes, we can hear you now. You were muted at some point.
Oh no. Okay, I don't know now from which one. Was I already dealing with Honorable Peters, or must I go back there?
Go back to Honorable Peters.
Okay. In terms of Honorable Peters, she has asked for some information with regards to detailed information on the DFFE plantations and the funding that is available. So we will provide that detail in writing, Chair, if we may request that. And then on the plan to deal with the milestones that have not been achieved, I think, as we have said, that the 35 that need attention, if we address all of those, then the redundant one will automatically become into play. Because, for instance, now we are evaluating on the strategic partners. So once we've finalized on the strategic partners, we get the partners in place, we get those agreements in place, then the issues of support to the communities in terms of technical assistance, the funding that will come with a strategic partner, but also support for those communities to be able to thrive will then start to take place because we would have achieved some of those things. So in terms of getting new areas being planted, that's when you will get the jobs happening, but also this is where you will get that investment that has been committed by the industry to be effected. I think, Chair, on the issues of the fiber board, Michael Peter has responded, but on the issues of transformation, what we can commit to do is to then provide the committee with the report from the Charter Council that will detail the transparent scorecard that the chair was asking about. And then maybe lastly, Chair, I think I have missed some questions, but lastly, maybe I can ask Mr. Matiane to add on the issues of the blended finance, the development finance institutions, and post-settlement support. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nodada. Over to you. Is it Mr.
Matiane, Chair?
Mr. Matiane?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. I'm just going to deal with the issues of post-settlement support as well as the blended finance scheme. Just to say that the department is working with the industry and the Commission on Restitution of Land Rights to develop a post-settlement support manual, which will be a reference guide and a framework that will be used to implement post-settlement support. This manual has got two components. One component deals with the post-transfer, which is a section dealing with the beneficiaries of the transfer of the management function of plantations. And the second one deals with the land reform to support the land reform beneficiaries. Now, the post-transfer component of the manual is almost complete with proposed packages to be provided to beneficiaries. But the land reform component had some challenges, and in this regard, there's a task team which consists of DFFE and the Commission officials, and it is expected that this task team should be able to complete the task by 30 June so that then we can have a fully fleshed and complete manual on post-settlement support. But in addition to that, while we are awaiting the manual to be completed, the department had implemented a skills program where about 358 beneficiaries of the post-transfer were trained. So these are beneficiaries who are part of the community forestry agreements where there's been transfers to the beneficiaries. So the training covered aspects like basic forestry, the harvesting, key issues like firefighting, silviculture, planting, business management, as well as first aid. Now, the training on its own would not be sufficient as the post-settlement support manual is concluded and being implemented. This training will then be supplemented by extension and advisory services. Then coming to the blended finance scheme. The blended finance scheme, it's a funding instrument that has been put in place to support small growers and other producers in the sector. It's not yet operational. We're still engaging with DFIs, especially those who are willing to fund enterprises like timber production, which have got a long rotation of between 8 to 10 years, because in most instances you find most of the development finance institutions are not attracted to this kind of enterprises. And the department on its own has also prioritized funding so that when we engage with the DFIs, we can put on the table the contribution from the department, and from the DFIs, they will also make their own contribution. Now, in terms of the question that was asked by Honorable Kumalo, once the blended finance scheme is in place, there would be governance structures and proper reporting mechanism, and this will also be subjected to internal audit as well as external audit to deal with issues of compliance and ensure that we don't have issues of corruption and other undesirables creeping in. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matiane. DM?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. Honorable Chairperson, I would like to say that Honorable De Block must really rather ask a parliamentary question, because I am not going to respond on procurement processes of which are not part of the master plan, in the contents of the master plan, but I was merely responding to what I have officially on reports. So I think that it is best he goes the route of the parliamentary question, because I don't think that in the position that I am in a position to answer on procurement processes that have got nothing to do with the master plan. But that we do have a relationship with the Forestry South Africa in relation on what must happen in the master plan. But if he has got a specific parliamentary question, he must go ahead with it. I also want to respond on the FPAs, which Honorable De Block commented on. There is no FPA that is being owed. All FPAs have been paid, Honorable De Block. There are 4 FPAs who have for months, even up until last year, even when through the Working on Fire program, have not submitted bank accounts. We went on a verification process of all FPAs in the country, and the verification process was making sure that there is still a structure in place. They have got bank accounts, who are the signatories, and that when people say there are FPAs in the country, it is in relation to the constitution that is there and the relationship we have with them as a department. So indeed, the one that you have mentioned, which is the Free State, remains an issue where you have got 2 umbrellas that would, when there's supposed to be 1 umbrella. But that is what I wanted to comment on. But I think that the issue of the jobs is an issue. I think after our meeting on the 15th, we should come back again, because we had a clear workshop in March. And in March, I asked our partners that must we still say in the master plan that we are going to create 100,000 jobs? Because I myself wanted an explanation to say, if you say you are going to create 100,000 jobs, do we have the equal hectares that allow us to create 100,000 jobs? Because this was an estimated jobs that was put in place in numbers 5 years ago. But where we are seated at now, are we really still in a position to talk about 100,000 jobs? And the question the answer was no, because if we are looking at new afforestation in the Eastern Cape, it's 85,500 hectares, which is 27,143 estimated jobs. When you look at new afforestation in KZN, it's 30,000 hectares, which is 12.381 hectares. When we look at recapitalization, it's 64,000 hectares, which is 20,317 estimated jobs. And a value addition, which is a pulp and paper, it's 10,000, which means that it brings you to about 70,035 jobs, which is a realistic, which is what we must talk about. So in that workshop, I might be talking because you were not there, Mr. Peter. It's the time you were stuck overseas. I think it's that workshop. We were hoping that you get a flight home. But for me, what I'm saying to the portfolio committee is that we are hoping that we'll reach a stage, because we are also now having the Minister of Labour who has agreed to actually give us officers to go on site, but she's going to be leading it herself. So that when we talk about the jobs, we're talking about this 5 years ago. But when we are talking now, we must talk realistic things to the portfolio committee, because I think that we're in a meeting where Hansard is recording us as well, because for me is that the jobs that we create in this sector equals the hectares that we have. And for me, the hectares that we have now is that we must talk 70,035 jobs, which are the jobs you can actually link to the hectares. And now that Public Works has also signed the leases for us, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, will then be able to move in the Western Cape in terms of the realistic investments that investors can bring in, because the lease has now been signed. But I must say that it took us a lot of time explaining, like we have said. I had to explain, the officials had explained, I was explaining on something that have explained for over a year, for us to actually be on the same page and language with Public Works. I think from my side, that is what I wanted to say, Honorable Chairperson, and that I think that to Forestry South Africa, that I think that the minister, in his responses to meeting you, that meeting will take place. And I think that our meeting on the 15th as well, but I also don't want to agree, Honorable De Block, because you are saying that you are hoping that at that meeting we are going to sign. Our meeting is not for signing, because we have EOCs all the time. So we've got a calendar of dates on when we meet. And I think that I postponed the EOC because I had seen a report from a meeting with the DG with Forestry South Africa, which made me to change the date to a later date, because when you are partners, you must find each other so that there is progress in what we are doing. And I think that the portfolio committee must also note, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, that our master plan in this department, in government, is the only master plan that is not in court on litigation. And I think that for that fact, it means that we have a master plan that is not in court, but a master plan that is ongoing with its challenges, but also to make sure that the second phase of the master plan talks to what really the initial master plan was meant to say is going to take us forward. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Member.
Thank you, TM, and also thank you to the presenters for their responses. Honorable members, I just want to remind the colleagues of the written responses that are supposed to be sent to the committee. One, it is the response to Honorable Khumalo's question on the value of community shares. And also, number two, details on the state plantations and funding question that was raised by Honorable Peters. The other one is the transformation scorecard from the Charter Council, and also a roadmap towards the forensic audit to be commissioned into the theft and destruction of the state plantations. Those questions are due on the 23rd of June. And also with the request that we get a copy of the post-settlement and the post-transfer manuals should, after the committee, or after it has been concluded, and would like it to be sent to the committee by the end of June, so that it can make our oversight work easy. Let me then take this opportunity and firstly thank Minister and the TM for their inputs in the meeting, and also thank the Forestry SA delegation led by Mr. Peter, and also SAFCOL delegation led by Professor Nesamvumi, the board chairperson, and also the department. Again, that was the presentation that was led by Ms. Nodata. Thank you very much for all your inputs. But I see the hands. Honorable members, it's past and some of us are rushing for the bus to Parliament. I'm making concluding remarks. If there's anything that I've left out in with regards to the questions, I would request that you send those questions to Chileka so that they can be responded to. With those few words, honorable members, I then declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honourable members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to ensure that you